Welcome Formula One fans, this is your Formula One News Hour and I'm your host Jonathan Steele. It is May 28th and we have an alright weather day in Monaco this morning. We have little clouds off the coast, but we don't have the rain that was forecast. Not a lot of things happened overnight. I guess the biggest news is that Jean Leclerc was hit with a 3-grid penalty for obstructing Lando Norris during his hot lap yesterday during qualifying. So actually it wasn't Leclerc's fault, it was more his team's fault, and he got hit with the penalty. So again, the circuit here is 1.074 miles long and has 19 turns. And of course, the one of these turns is probably the most famous turn in Formula One, and that's the hairpin, which really it's also the slowest turn in Formula One at 28 miles per hour. So when you see these cars getting down to 28 miles an hour, you know that you've got a really tight turn. So before we get going, let's thank our sponsors for today, and that is of course Phenology at phenology.com. It is GiveSendGo at GiveSendGo.com, CloudHub at CloudHub.com, and Moms for Liberty at MomsForLiberty.org. And this week's special advertiser is Reachco CPA. That's Keith Reach and Company, Reachco.com. And the first portion of this Formula One News Hour will be brought to us by Reachco. So if you guys would like to get some accounting done for your business, for yourself, get your tax returns done, anything to do with numbers, then the place to go is Reachco.com, and that is RECHCO.com, Reachco.com. So they're just putting up the starting grid, and then we'll have the formation lap, and then we'll be go in about, I'm going to say 4 to 5 minutes. And so we will be right back after this. Alright folks, so the formation lap is coming to an end. The interesting tyre strategies this morning. On the front row we've got both hard and medium, with Verstappen choosing the medium and Alonso choosing the hard. Pretty much through the entire 20-car field you've got about a 50-50 split. We've got one guy on soft tyres, that's Checo Perez, and he'll have done that to try and get a little advantage going. So the lights are out, it's 4, 5, and we are off. And Max Verstappen has got a great start. He is out there ahead of Alonso. Alonso's challenging, but he is not going to catch him. It is an incredible start by Max Verstappen right there, and could be what we will see for the rest of the day with Verstappen out front. Unless, of course, like I said, we have some kind of accident. So far, though, all the cars are behaving themselves. I should say the drivers are behaving themselves. And we have actually, well, we've just seen one of the Haas cars lock up his wheels going into the hairpin. And in fact, we have a yellow flag. No, it's gone back to a green flag again as the cars come to an almost stop on this hairpin. And cause a bit of a traffic jam right there. So the Haas car, just like you have on your street cars, when you get one car like that that has to hit the brakes hard, causes all the other cars to hit the brakes hard behind him. And let's see where he was. It's interesting though. Actually, it was Magnussen who hit the brakes hard, and he lost about 4 or 5 spots on that. So right now though, the running order hasn't changed that much, other than Hamilton seems to have made up. Well, no, he didn't make up 1 spot. What happened, of course, was that Leclerc got knocked back by 3 spots, so that moved the likes of Ocon, Sainz, and Hamilton up ahead of him. So essentially, he got moved back 3 spots. Everybody that was behind him got moved up 1 spot. So let's see who's coming into pit lane right now. It looks like we have Checo Perez come into the pits. I wonder what he came in for. So anyway, let me get my headphones on here and I can listen to what the Sky Sports commentators are telling us, and we'll bring that information right to you. So already Verstappen's got a 1.5 second lead, and we're just going into the second lap. So let's hope this race doesn't turn out to be a boring event like the race in Baku a few weeks ago. But right now we're at 1.6 seconds coming to the end of the second lap. That's an incredible lead. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see more than about a half to 3/4 of a second lead after the first or second lap. But as we've talked about before in these races, the Red Bull cars are just really, especially under race conditions, which is quite different than qualifying conditions because they've got a full load of fuel. They don't have the use of full-time DRS. In fact, in the race itself, they don't get DRS until, I think it's typically lap 4. So on tire strategies, it looks like the hard tire can go 44 laps. The medium tire that Verstappen is on is 34 laps, and the soft tire is 22 laps. So it's going to be interesting watching the strategies here. But if Verstappen keeps going the way he is, then within 10 to 15 laps, he'll be able to do a pit stop, change his tires, and get right back out, and he won't lose his lead position. And just now showing a replay of the start, and what's really interesting is that Lewis Hamilton got squeezed out by the Ferrari, and they actually they touched wheels. That would be Hamilton's left front to the Ferrari's right rear. And we are now coming up on lap 5, and at lap 5 Verstappen has now a 2.2 second lead over Alonso. And what's interesting is Esteban Ocon in the Alfa Romeo is actually holding third place. He's right now 5 seconds behind Alonso, and then 1.5 seconds behind him is Carlos Sainz, and then 1.2 seconds behind Sainz is Lewis Hamilton. But it looks like as DRS now comes into play, of course there's not a lot of places in Monaco for the use of DRS, but we've got Jean Leclerc, who is roughly about half a second behind Lewis Hamilton. We would expect to see Leclerc at the first available opportunity taking advantage of DRS and getting past Lewis Hamilton. At the bottom of the pack, Sergio Perez has moved up from 20th to 17th, so he's already made up 3 positions. So if he can keep that up, probably by halfway through the race, we'll probably see him up in around the 10th position, so earning points for Red Bull in the Constructors' Championships, and also getting himself 1 or 2 points in the Drivers' Championship. But we'll see how that goes. This is, in terms of the number of laps, it's a 78 lap race. You know, typically the circuits are a little longer, 3 miles, so you see, you know, typically in the 50s, 54, 57 laps in most of the other Formula One races. So right now the cars are actually starting to space out a little bit. When I start looking at it, you've got most cars are 1.5 seconds behind the car in front. If this continues, it could well be a very boring Monaco Grand Prix. So we'll just have to wait and see as the tires settle in and the drivers get used to the track. And every day is different for these guys because the weather makes it different, winds make it different. So as the drivers become more acclimated to the weather conditions and the cars, the grip on the cars to the track changes, then hopefully we'll see some changes. Right now Perez has got the fastest lap, but Perez is on soft tires, so that's to be expected. But he is a full 27 seconds behind his teammate Max Verstappen. So if Max Verstappen was to pit right now, he'd come out in 12th place. So like I say, he is going to, with assuming nothing goes wrong, by lap, I'm going to say mid-20s, he's going to be able to pit and retain that leadership position. His tyres are good for about 34 laps. Max Verstappen is really good at managing his tyres, so we might see him get 36, 37 laps out of a set of tyres. And as I mentioned, he is on the medium tyre right now. It looks like our good friends at obviously, they're not my good friends, but we'll call them my good friends. My good friends at McLaren are doing rather nicely today. They're up there in 10th and 11th, respectively. The Williams cars have slipped back a little bit this week. They're down there in 13th and 15th. And Valtteri Bottas is splitting them. He's in 14th. I don't know why Valtteri Bottas has struggled so much this year. Last year he didn't have a great year, his first year with Alfa Romeo, but certainly he's struggled a bit with them this year. So I have trouble sometimes looking at the screen and remembering which drivers are in which cars. And of course, earlier I said Esteban Ocon was in the Alfa Romeo, and in fact he is in the Alpine, not the Alfa Romeo. And his teammate is Gasly, and Gasly's in seventh position right now. So the Alpine team is doing remarkably well. I mean, they are a sub team of Red Bull, and so they are going to have, by the looks of it, a really good day here in Monaco. Now the good news that I'm watching right now is that Max Verstappen is not adding to his lead like he was at the beginning of the few laps there. In fact, he's actually, over the last 2 laps, we're on lap 9 now, over the last 2 laps, Alonso has closed that gap on him. So it's down to 2.2 seconds. It was all the way up over 3 seconds a couple of laps ago. So as I mentioned a little while ago, the cars are settling in, the grip is getting better, the drivers are settling in, they're getting used to the winds and the weather. So that's very encouraging to see Alonso making ground on Verstappen. What's not encouraging is the cars in 3rd, 4th and 5th are dramatically losing ground to Verstappen. And in fact, the Ocon is now 11 seconds behind, and then Sainz is 11.5 seconds, Hamilton is 13 seconds, and Leclerc is 14 seconds. So yeah, it's not pretty behind the 2 leaders for the rest of the field. At the bottom end of the field now, we've got Hülkenberg at 32 seconds behind. So at this rate, by lap 22, 23, then Max Verstappen is going to start lapping the field. That's just kind of amazing, especially when you looked at yesterday in the qualifying time. So there wasn't that big a gap. There was about 1.5, 2 seconds between the pole and the last place car. Which, well, that's not true because Perez didn't get to qualify in qualifying session 2 and 3, but let's say position 19, it was about, I think, 2.1 seconds. So now it looks like Verstappen is starting, and Alonso has just come on the radio and said he's having brake issues, but Verstappen now has opened back up. He's at a 3-second lead, so some little difficulty there for Fernando Alonso in that Aston Martin. The other Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, is all the way down in 17th position. He had a little altercation with Logan Sargent at the beginning of the race, and actually Stroll got squeezed out by his own fault. He got squeezed out between Sargent's car and the wall going into that hairpin at the beginning of the race. And that's when the Haas car of Hulkenberg, I thought it was Magnussen, but it turns out it was Hulkenberg's car that actually caused the issue there. Magnussen is up in 16th place, so not a good day so far for the Haas team. I'm sure Gene Haas, after the last few weeks, was probably expecting a little better performance out of his crew, but we're only 11 laps in to a 78 lap race, so we got lots and lots of time. And so Carlos Sainz just tried to make a pass on Ocon and didn't have the room that he thought he did. And now he's got damage to the right front wing of his car. So he's going to have to do a pit stop, come in and change the nose cone on that car. The right side of it is literally hanging off. So the stewards are going to black flag him to get him to come in, because that's going to cause a yellow safety car. In fact, they've now got the nose cone out there waiting for him to come in on the next lap. And out comes the yellow flag, because that piece of his car just fell off, and so we had our first yellow flag of the day, and so that little attempt to take over third position is now going to drop him back all the way, I would say, down to probably 15th, let's see, 15th or 16th position. So gap to Perez is 19 seconds, actually, and Perez is in 18th, so Carlos Sainz is going to find himself pretty near the back of the pack after that little mishap. So at these speeds, it only takes one little miscalculation, misjudgment, and they go on this particular track, they go from the front of the pack to the back of the pack in a heartbeat. So Perez has decided not to box and get a new nose cone. So we're going to have to watch and see if the FIA guys, the Formula One guys, sorry, it's going to be interesting to see if they force a pit stop on him, because if they determine that that more pieces of that car are going to fall off, and they've just taken the yellow flag away, so if they determine there's more pieces of that car is going to fall off, they will black flag him and make him stop and change that nose cone. But right now, I guess he doesn't feel like the performance of the car has been degraded enough, losing that little piece. So now Alonso thinks that he has a puncher from picking up running over a piece of that debris from Carlos Sainz. His engineers are telling him no, but so he must feel something in that car that's not right all of a sudden. So the gap now is 5.3 seconds. So obviously he feels something is. When he nearly lost it there, he came out with a mega wiggle coming out of that corner. But they've told him his car is fine, and so. He's coming, but at 5.2 seconds, so in literally 2-3 laps he's lost over 2 seconds, which is a huge amount of time. Ocon and Sainz and Hamilton now are all 17-18 seconds behind. I predicted that pretty much he would be able to come out in the mid-20s. He'd be able to pit and then come back out and still be in the lead. I don't think that's going to happen, but he'd certainly come back out and he'd be in second place. But right now, he's adding so much time to the cars behind him that we're going to know the result of this race by lap 25 or lap 30, and that's not even halfway through the race. And I say that we could see something like like we've just saw with Carlos Sainz. In fact, we have another yellow flag out right now, and they're showing a replay. Oh, I see what happened. Oh, it yeah. So. Sainz tried taking Ocon as he came out of the tunnel, and sorry. Anyway, I was just watching the replay, and it was really a silly move on Sainz's part. And now you can see bits of the car flying over. And who was that? In fact, the Alex Albon just ran over pieces of that car. And I'm watching the replay, folks, so little stalling going on here. But 2 or 3 cars ran over bits and pieces of that car as they brought out the yellow flag. So Verstappen continues to build a sizable lead. He's up to 6 seconds now, and he's gaining about a second a lap on our second place car of Fernando Alonso. So if that was to happen 10 seconds, so I would be right. And by the mid 20 laps, in lap 25 or 26, he would have enough of a lead to go in, change tires and come back out and still take the lead. Now, he doesn't need to do that. He does not need to change tires until lap, I'm estimating around, based on his ability to preserve tires, I'm estimating that he can pit at around lap 36 or 37, which at that time, if it continues like it's going, he's going to have about a 22-23 second lead on the second place car, which will be in fact, in another 10 laps, he is going to start. So, as I mentioned earlier, that maybe by the middle 20s. So he's going to start lapping the cars at the back of the field by about lap 24 or 25. And even he's going to, at the present rate, he will lap every car on the track, with probably the exception of Alonso. But even if it keeps going like it is, he could end up lapping every car on the track. That takes me back to the great Jim Clark. I can't remember exactly which Grand Prix it was, but he did in fact lap every single other car in that race. I will commit to try and find out exactly what Grand Prix that was, that Jim Clark, you know, the great Formula One driver from the 60s, what race it was that he ended up lapping everyone on the track. Now, back in those days, with you know, especially with the mechanical issues that the cars used to have, it was not unusual for lots of the cars to be lapped. But when you took a driver like Clark, that could literally outperform every driver out there, then it would not be an unusual thing to happen back then. So let's see, right? So it looks like that Alonso has stopped some of the bleeding. He's right now. Verstappen is he's still opening up a little bit of a lead, but I'd say about half a second a lap now, and not a full second a lap. And Magnussen has just moved himself up. As I mentioned, there's not a lot of places to pass on this track. And Magnussen has just moved himself up to 15th position by just overtaking Logan Sargent. Of course, Logan Sargent, this is his very first Monaco Grand Prix. And he's probably doing the smart thing and being conservative and trying to get his car to the end of the race. Which would be an accomplishment all of its own. Sergio Perez is not making any ground at all on the field anymore. He's still stuck down there in 18th position. He started 20th, so in 18 laps he's moved up two places. And Perez, in fact, I'm just talking about Perez not making any advancement through the field, and he too has just now passed Logan Sargent. And we are just getting reports coming in of raindrops hitting on turn 6 and 8. So as long as it's just raindrops, I'm a tennis player. If you've ever played tennis and you get a little light drizzle or whatever, you can continue playing. But when it turns to heavy rain, then of course you've got to quit. So if this turns to heavy rain, then they're certainly going to have to come in and change tires. But again, we're on lap 50, so there's 28 laps to go. And how Max Verstappen has got 50 laps out of these medium tires, I'm sure everybody is scratching their heads wondering how that could happen. I'm sure Aston Martin is asking themselves, how is this guy still out there 50 laps on medium tires? It's just mind-boggling to think that he can manage those tires and still maintain the lead. George Russell is just reporting in from the Mercedes that there is, in turn 3, they have some race. It's going to be interesting here in the next few laps as we see the rain moving in, just exactly what the tire strategy is going to be. So we're just seeing the McLaren cars come in for their pit stops at 52 laps. So those tires, the hard tires, they're on generally good for 44. So everybody's really doing a pretty good job of managing the tires, but nobody's doing the job that Max Verstappen is doing, which is just mind-boggling. As I've said, I don't know, I'm probably becoming redundant and boring talking about really the job that he's doing managing those tires. So with 52 laps gone, Max Verstappen over the last 2 or 3 laps has really started opening up significant time on Alonso. He is now at 12.5 seconds. So in the last 2-3 laps, he's adding about 1.5 seconds per lap, which would tell me that and we're just watching. Ocon just took over from Carlos Sainz. The Sainz overtook Ocon, but he had to cut through the corner to do that. So Ocon overtook him back again. So we've seen some really serious racing here. On the part of the track is really wet, and part of the track is dry. And so Max Verstappen is talking to his crew about what to do, and they're saying, listen, if you've only got a small piece of the track that's wet and it's a straight line, then just stay out because most of the track is dry. So it's really seeing some cat and mouse stuff going on here. Very interesting. Now, it's interesting, we got 54 laps down, so we got 16... Yeah, about 16 laps to go, it does feel like that only a very small portion of the track is wet, and so they're going to stay out. Verstappen is saying he's having to drive really slow. Of course, he's on those medium tires that he's been on from the beginning. Now we're just watching here a very wet corner, and Alonso is coming into the pits, so that's Alonso coming in now before Verstappen. Whoa, and Carlos Sainz really, right? Alonso is staying out on dry tires. He is not going to the intermediate wet tires. So, so 2.4 second pit stop, so that's respectable. So let's see what Max Verstappen does. Max Verstappen can come in now and go back out, and he's still in the lead because Alonso is 26 seconds down. And we're starting to see a rash of cars coming in now because it's actually raining in the pit lane. So it may have been a really bad strategy move on the part of... So anyway, Esteban Ocon in that Alpine is going to... Whoa! We just watched Carlos Sainz there, who's still on the dry tires, just literally skidding along sideways. And thankfully the barrier stopped him and he was able to keep going without doing any damage. We got Lance Stroll, who was also on slick tires at this time. So yeah, really the racetrack is literally for these guys just and we've just seen somebody lost the whole front piece of their nose cone. I don't know who that was, but I don't see Hamilton. No, I don't see much changing. Hamilton is only 2 seconds behind Ocon, and Russell is 8 seconds behind Ocon. Yeah, so let's see who's the better rain driver here, Hamilton or Ocon, because if Hamilton is known quite well for his ability to drive in the rain. Ocon, we don't know. I think we're about to find out just how good he is. But now we've got everybody. Everybody except Kevin Magnussen is now on the on the intermediate wet tire, and Magnussen is just carefully, very carefully going around the track. I don't know whether he's expecting the track to dry out. If the track was to dry out suddenly, but even so, there's only, well, there's 20 laps. So they're talking about Ocon making up 7 seconds on Alonso. But I saw earlier that said Alonso was on the intermediate wet tire. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's still on the hard tire. If that's the case, yeah, he's doomed. He can't maintain second position. We've got Hamilton making up a little bit of time on Ocon, about half a second here over the last couple of laps. And now we have a yellow flag, and we're going to have a yellow... actually, no, he's backing up. Let's see. We're not a safety car. No, he's actually going to get it out of there. So, okay. So the yellow flag will go away, and the green flag is back. So, all kinds of interesting... The rain brings interesting events, of course. So the piece of... If you remember a few minutes ago, I was talking... Somebody lost a piece of their front pod, and it was Kevin Magnussen, and they are at the moment changing out that front pod for a new one. So yeah, very interesting stuff going on with the replays. There's lots of replays while these cars kind of slide all over the track and stuff like that when the rain first came. And oh, who is this? We've got one of the it's Logan Sargent. So Logan Sargent, who is in 18th place. Magnussen, of course, is that Lance Stroll is out of the race. We didn't see that, but I'm just noticing. I don't know what happened to Lance Stroll, but he is out of the race. So he's the first casualty of the rain. At the moment, Verstappen is maintaining a very nice lead on Alonso, and Ocon is quickly catching Alonso. So I don't know what is going on with Alonso. The other interesting thing that's happening is Hamilton is slowly making ground on Ocon. Now, the cars are at this speed, the DRS is not going to help them that much. George Russell has just been hit with a 5-second penalty for an unsafe restart in the race. So that is going to put him 5 seconds. That's going to put him back down. They're showing George Russell on the replay and showing this unsafe joining. But so it's going to put George Russell back in about 8th or 9th position, that penalty. Let's see, he's in 5th, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's going to put him back in 9th position, just ahead of Nicky Tsunoda. So and we've just got another yellow flag, and Magnussen has gone straight on into the runoff. So he's going to try and reverse back onto the track and rejoin the race, but that is going to put him probably dead last. So it's fast and furious disasters out there on the track right now. Logan Sargent has just run in on the slowest corner of the racetrack, and he loses it. Of course, you know, like I said, driving these cars on a wet road, even with these tires, is completely different. And they don't really get a lot of experience driving in the wet roads on these cars, because, you know, they don't really practice in the wet, which maybe they should. Anyway, here's something interesting. Ocon now is opening up a gap with Lewis Hamilton. So something's going on with Lewis Hamilton's car. Max Verstappen, meanwhile, is just cruising along. It's going to be the podium finish for Ocon, I'm sure now, as he's opening up quite a nice. Well, it's just dropped a little bit here on him, but he's and the rain looks like it is kind of easing up a little bit. Although the cars, looking at the track, the cars are throwing up a lot of water, but it looks like the rain may be easing up. And we've got another yellow flag coming out. Let's see what this is all about. And I see there's debris on the track. Somebody's lost pieces of his car, and I guess they got it off because we're watching Max Verstappen now make his way around the track quite gingerly, I might add, but safely. He's actually losing a little time to Alonso. Alonso's made up a couple of seconds, and Ocon was making up time on Alonso, but that has gone away, and he is now in fact losing time to Alonso. So whatever was going on with Alonso's car right there as the rain started, it's kind of eased up. Yeah, Max Verstappen lost 2 seconds on the previous lap. So we're on lap 62 now. So we've got, we've got 16 laps to go. So I want to see that they haven't shown what the lap times are right now, but I'm going to guess that the lap times, whoa, Max Verstappen nearly lost it there. So yeah, we got to be thinking that that the lap times are up around 2 minutes now, from 1 minute 30, 1 minute 35 seconds, which is fairly normal for race conditions here at Monaco. So what's really interesting about all of this is our friends at McLaren are still maintaining 10th and 11th position. They haven't, who is, oh, that's Lance Stroll walking back to the pits. He's kind of had a bummer of a day. He kept bumping into everybody, and finally his car got parked out on the track, actually on a runoff area, not on the track, but he is parked, which is not a good day for him and for Aston Martin. But Aston Martin are going to come in second unless some dramatic event happens. And Esteban Ocon is going to come in third. So he's going to, I think this might be the first pole position for Esteban Ocon. So it'll be George Russell is currently in 5th position, but he's got to serve out a penalty. So they're talking about, what George Russell is talking about, having Lewis Hamilton let him come past him. And yet, and he won't make up more than 5 seconds. So at the end of the race, they'd finish exactly where they are now, and they would protect the position against Jean Leclerc. So the team would get the points, and of course the drivers would get the points. So it shows you that these guys are doing more than driving when they're out there in these cars. They're actually thinking about strategies. Now, if you think about this got 19 turns on this track. It's raining. And they're trying to figure out the best strategy to maintain points and stuff like that for the team and for themselves. So a lot of smarts going on in those drivers' heads as they're heading around the track. So it's crazy that they can even think that stuff and concentrate on keeping these cars on the track. It's crazy. Good stuff though. So let's see, we've got 6 and 8, 14 laps to go. So I'm thinking that the lap times are really up over 2 minutes right now, because if you're just watching them go, watching the lap counter go down, you can really see that it's going down at a much slower rate. They're just showing the drivers' championship points. So Alonso's going to gain 18, Hamilton's going to gain 13, and Russell is going to gain 9. So whoa! So somebody just it's interesting because they seem to be having the most trouble with the slowest corner on the track. I mean, on a dry track, they're getting down to 28 miles an hour. So you got to figure here on a wet track, they may be getting down to, I don't know, 16, 18 miles an hour. And yet the back ends on them, they're getting on the gas too quickly and the back end is spinning out. But so if Russell was to serve a 5-second penalty right now, which he will, they'll just do it at the end of the race, he'd still come out pretty much. I don't see, Jean Leclerc is 8 seconds behind him, so it shouldn't make any difference to him. I don't know why he's actually out there overthinking his strategy. The interesting thing is Alonso now is losing more time to Verstappen. And Ocon is losing time to Alonso, and Hamilton now is within DRS range of Ocon. So Ocon is in danger of losing his podium position here. So we're going to watch and see if Hamilton can in fact take that position away from Ocon. It's a lot harder to pass on a wet Monaco track than a dry one, but even that is not easy. So even though he does have DRS, he is about it's showing that he's dropped back 1.3 seconds. I was going to say at half or 3/4 of a second, he's about a car and a half length behind. And I was just watching the distance between the two cars there, and right now Ocon is not in any danger at all. Hamilton now has dropped back to 1.4 seconds, so Ocon's got some advantages somewhere on the track there as they move and come through by the swimming pool turn. I know, they're asking Yuki Tsunoda, who is in 9th position, to get past Carlos Sainz, which oh no, I see what it is. Norris is he's got no chance of getting past Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris is on his tail, only 0.4 of a second behind, and they are telling Yuki Tsunoda that he's got better brakes than the McLaren, and so to use those to outbrake him. And then Yuki Tsunoda came back and said, well, these brakes suck, so it's hard for me to do that. Yeah, they want to maintain right now because Tsunoda is in 9th position and Norris is in 10th. Well, he's responded to the team's instructions, because he's opened up that lead again a little bit from half a second to 3/4 of a second. But you can see the McLaren is on his tail. So where are we with Hamilton now is unable to keep up with Ocon, and is now 1.2 seconds behind him, so he's out of DRS range. So Sergio Perez is talking about the track drying up rather quickly. So with 10 laps to go, do they come back in and put the dry tires on, or do they stay out on the intermediate wets? Right now, watching the cars, and they're still fishtailing and everything coming out of the turns, still a lot of water being thrown up. If I was Hannah Schmidt, I'd keep Max Verstappen out there on the intermediate wets, because if they come in to change and he doesn't, he'd end up with about a 40-second lead, and with 10 laps to go, I don't think they could, even with those tires. And we just saw one of the Williams cars of Alex Albon go sideways as he came out of the turn there. But I don't think that they're going to bring Verstappen in for tires, and I just don't think they'll bring Alonso in either, because that would put him back in 3rd position, and that would give him maybe 5 or 6 laps to try and make up 8 to 10 seconds on Esteban Ocon, which would probably not be that difficult, but I don't know if it's a risk that you would want to take. Right now, the top actually 5 spots, 6 spots, 7 spots, 8 spots, 9 spots look pretty secure. Well, 9th spot, no, because Nicky Tsunoda is in 9th, and he's got Norris literally on his tail. I mean, Norris is Norris is less than a quarter of a second behind. So let's say Pierre Gasly losing it here, had to go straight on at the turn. He could just didn't make that turn, and that's about the second or third time he hasn't made that turn. So he's looking to really get some penalty seconds if he keeps doing that. So yeah, right now at the bottom end of the field, Sergio Perez is at 16th, Hülkenberg 17th, Logan Sargent 18th, Magnussen at 19th, and of course Lance Stroll is not in the race. And Lando Norris has just moved past Yuki Tsunoda to take over that 9th position, and so he's now in 9th, and Nicky's in 10th, and Piastri is in 11th. So it's going to be interesting to see if Piastri is going to get past Tsunoda as well. Let's see what the time difference is. Oh yeah, he's going to get past him because it's less. In fact, he has just passed Tsunoda. So now we've got both the McLaren cars in the top 10. So a rather good day for McLaren compared to the previous few weeks that they've had. They're going to come in 9th and 10th. So yeah, very nicely done for McLaren today. And we've got a yellow flag, and that looks like Magnussen in the runoff. No, it's Yuki Tsunoda actually. Let's see what he's going to do. He's going to back up and try and get back on the track. So his team told him to push, and he pushed, and it just has not paid off. That's going to put him back into, as all the cars come by him, it's going to put him back in probably 15th. Now, I haven't seen Perez come past him, but it is going to put him way down in the field as he comes down into the slowest corner on the Monaco racetrack. So Carlos Sainz is, if you remember, was at one time in 4th place. He's now down in 8th place, about a second behind Pierre Gasly, who is in 7th. So it's going to be interesting to see if Gasly can hold off Carlos Sainz in that Ferrari. Let's say Gasly is the other Alpine car, the teammate to Esteban Ocon. And Tsunoda is reporting that he really has no brakes. They're talking about they may have to come out. Remember I mentioned earlier, these intermediate tires, they don't last very long. So they're talking to Max Verstappen about making his tires last another 9 laps. Excuse me. Given that he got 50 plus laps out of the intermediate, not the medium tire, not intermediate, the medium tire. I don't see getting 9 or 10 laps. Actually, it's 8 laps now. Getting 8 laps out of these tires is going to be that difficult for him. So we've got everybody on the intermediate wet, with the exception of Perez, Hülkenberg, and Magnussen, who are on full wet. So that's kind of interesting that they went to that tire. There's still a lot of water being thrown up by these cars. As these intermediate tires wear down, though, we're going to see a lot more slip sliding, which would remind you of that Paul Simon song, Slip Sliding Away. But they're talking to Max. If Max was to come in, I clipped the wall a little bit within the right rear. Check the pressures, okay? So that means that those tires are going away from him faster than they thought. But he could come in right now. He's 23 seconds up. He could come in, change tires, go back out. He'd still be in 1st place. So he's 24 seconds. So he's gaining. And Ocon is doing a nice job of holding off Lewis Hamilton. maintaining 1.5, 1.6. I don't know what happened there. It went from 1.1 to about 1.6 almost instantaneously. So that means that Hamilton must have had a little squiggly. Now it's at 1.8. So something's happening with the Hamilton car. He's struggling a little bit with something. So Perez is he's just taken over 15th place from Tsunoda, and we see Max Verstappen about to put these guys 2 laps down. That's just amazing, just amazing. I mean, he's putting his teammate 2 laps down. Just think about that. That's an incredible car that they've got, and who did they just? Oh, I'd say it's Verstappen putting a bunch of cars now down 2 laps. So an amazing drive today from Max Verstappen. We've got 6 laps left to go. I don't see anything changing. Hamilton is dropping further behind Ocon. Now he's 2 seconds back. So something's going on with Hamilton's car that he's dropped way back. Nothing's going to change at the front. Piastri did get past Bottas and those guys, and so they're bringing in Sergio Perez. Yeah, so they're bringing in Sergio Perez for something, and as far down in the field as he is, it doesn't really make any difference. 3.4 seconds stop, that's a little slow, a full second behind what it should be. But again, it's just not that big a deal for Perez today. He's just had a horrible day at the office. Okay, so we have just 5 laps left in the Monaco Grand Prix. The track is still quite wet. It has stopped raining, but the track is quite wet. So your top 5 are Verstappen, Alonso, Ocon, Hamilton and Russell. So actually not a bad day for Mercedes. Probably a little better than I thought they were going to be after qualifying yesterday. But again, they're so far behind the Red Bull and the Aston Martin that they've still got a lot of work to do on those cars to make them really competitive. At the bottom end, you've got Hülkenberg, Perez, Sargent, Magnussen, and Lance Stroll, of course, who's not going to finish the race. He's been out for about the last 20 laps. A nice day for McLaren. They're going to finish 9th and 10th, so they're going to get some decent points, both from a team perspective and from a driver perspective. So they'll be happy. The guys that won't be happy, of course, is Ferrari. They're going to finish at 6th and 8th, respectively, and they've been outdone really by the Alpines today. Alpine is going to finish 3rd and 7th. So a great day for Alpine, a really good day for Alpine. That they have managed to really pull off a really good race here. I think a surprise for everybody. The only non-surprise, I guess, is Verstappen and Alonso. And of course, I look like a genius because I predicted yesterday during qualifying that we could have a Verstappen and Alonso for 2nd place. But I'll try not to brag too much about it. But really, when you watch the teams, and I tend to watch the teams actually more than I watch the drivers. And when you watch the teams, you can see these things happening and coming together. Lots of little things that you don't realize when you're just watching it as a casual observer. There's lots of little things going on and not so much race day, but leading up to race day. There's lots of little things going on that you've really got to watch and think about carefully, and you can figure out yourselves really how these races are going to unfold. The only, I guess, surprise for me is that Sergio Perez in that car has really, even at Monaco, he should have got points today. He should have been up there I'd say, I think I said at the beginning of the race, he could finish in 10th or 9th, somewhere up there. But why he hasn't been, I mean, really he hasn't done anything. The reason he's in 18th or 17th position now is because of The Williams cars just have no grip to the rear wheels, and Magnussen is he's in 19th position right now. He's hit the wall, he's hit cars, he's had a rough day at the office. So really not a good day for Sergio Perez. One, I'm sure that especially after winning it last year, he's going to say, well, that's just a really bad day. Let's go on, forget about this race and go on to the next one. So with just 2-3 laps, we're on lap 76. It is going to end with Esteban Ocon getting a podium finish. So the Alpine cars are just amazing, and Magnussen has just got out of his car, so he's going to get a DNF for this race along with Lance Stroll. You just can't abuse the car like that car got abused today and hope that it's going to finish the race. And Max Verstappen continues to make time between himself and Alonso. So really, Red Bull and Verstappen today, where you've had all kinds of things happening today, especially with the rain, with the ability to manage those tires, not the intermediate tires, or medium compound tires, all the way through lap 50, 51. Just an amazing job. A great strategy from Hannah Schmidt, leaving him out there that one lap extra to see what's going to happen with the rain. So lots of little things going on happening today, and we're on the last lap. I see they got a guy called Tom Holland, some kind of movie star. I've never heard of him, but he's going to be the checkered flag waver, and Max Verstappen is going to come in a full 29 seconds ahead of the second place. He's going to have lapped just about every car on the field with the he's passed all up to, I think, up to lap 6, I'm thinking, 6th place. A good day though for Alonso, even though he's coming in 27 seconds back. He's still coming in 2nd place. So again, Aston Martin proving, and Lance Stroll, and people were saying that not Lance Stroll, his daddy, Mr. Stroll, is shown that he can run a Formula One team. The first 2 or 3 years he was out there, he was kind of the laughing stock of Formula One, and everybody was saying, you need to get some real Formula One people in there to run that team. Well, he's turned into a real Formula One person, because Aston Martin this year, I think they've podiumed every race this year. So just an amazing thing as Max Verstappen comes across the line to take the checkered flag here in just a few moments. He comes around the final turn down into the straightaway, and here is Max Verstappen taking the checkered flag and winning by 27.7 seconds and winning the Monaco Grand Prix. So being the pole sitter, incidentally, the pole sitter has only won this race 40% of the time. So he won pole and he has won the race. Ocon gets a podium finish, filling a full 1.5 seconds ahead of the car of Lewis Hamilton. So a great day for Alpine, a great day for McLaren, and a pretty normal day for Red Bull and now Aston Martin. But an interesting race, not as boring, I guess, for a little while there, but turned out to be really interesting the last 20 to 30 laps. So much better than the Baku fiasco. But still, we've got to find a way to make Mercedes, Ferrari a little more competitive, and even McLaren. McLaren showed this week that they're on the right way, but we really need more competition for the Red Bull cars especially. So this portion of your Formula One News Hour was brought to you by Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty is an organization dedicated to educating our parents out there on the need to get involved with their kids' education, get elected to school boards, help with the terrible disparity between real education, what our kids need to learn, and what is actually being taught in the school. We don't need to know about transgenderism at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. We don't need to know about gay lifestyles at the same age. We don't need to be taught that there's differences between the black and the white and the Hispanic populations. There aren't any differences. Those days are long gone. Everybody is an American, not a black American, not a Hispanic American or a white American, but American. And Moms for Liberty is out there really pushing this whole thing to get our kids learning what they need to learn to be good, hardworking, productive citizens when they get out into the workplace after leaving school. So please go out and support Moms for Liberty at momsforliberty.org. That is momsforliberty.org. And until next week, and I haven't even looked up to see where the race is coming from next week, but I do believe I saw there's a race next week. This is your Formula One News Hour host, Jonathan Steele, with one last thing to do, and that is, of course, to thank our producer and technical all things guru, Andre Kuhn. It was an interesting race, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast if you've listened all the way through the end. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week, and have a great Memorial Day. And thank you to all of those folks that joined the military and helped to protect not just this country of the United States, but a lot of the world, especially when you go back and think about World War II, the contribution that the United States made to winning that war. Without the United States, a lot of Europe would be speaking German today instead of speaking their own language, especially yours truly. So again, thank you to all of the servicemen out there that served, and we will see you next week.